Welcome back to Adaptive. This is the AI Week in Review. It's been another busy week, so let's jump right in. Starting off, O3 and O4 Mini were released last week. And as a part of that, we got our first test with O3, with the O3 model, which is, a very, well, obviously one of the newest models, but it's also one of the first models that not only is it a new model and obviously trained better and with more information and with the newest processes, but it also has what's called tool use as part of its chain of thought. And what does that mean? As it's thinking through, if it needs to, it can go out and search the web, or it can actually execute code. So that allows it to really do a lot of things these other models weren't able to do at the time. When they were, even though they were thinking models, they didn't have the capacity to go do that in their chain of thought. So as it goes along, it'll hit something, start to think about it, and then say, oh, I need more information. Go out to the web, pull in more information, think on that. As it thinks on that, it might say, oh, I need some more information. That comes back, and then it says, oh, this is a math problem. I'm going to write some code to execute the math problem. Or I might write some code to look at an image. So it really is a differentiating factor. And I can show you how much of a differentiating factor by, let me just put this over here. This screenshot first, I'll show you in 2024. This is how fast things have developed. Not even a year ago, end of May. And we're in the middle of April. If we look at the IQ results, the Mensa IQ results, nobody was at 100. It was under 100. Okay? If we come over here, and we look at the current results, O3 is sitting about 136. Okay, if we look at the equivalent of that, you're gifted. You're in the top 2%. You're in the top 2% of people, of humans, which is incredibly impressive. For under a year, went from under 100 to 136. Now, if you go check this out, it's at trackingai.org. So we'll run out there. I want to show you one other thing. So trackingai.org, great chart. And if you land there, you're going to look at this and say, you're not right. O3's, only 110. Well, there's a key difference. That's offline. What does offline mean? No tool usage. So that's the offline test. But when we show the full test, once it has access to tools, look at that. It's 132 right now. It was 136 yesterday. It goes up and down. They test it every day. It was 110. It's 110 without the tool usage. So it's gaining 22 points of IQ through tool usage right now. And Gemini Pro is right behind. Still very impressive. As I said, this will bump around. If you look at the testing, you can see the model. Anyway, they've made fantastic progress. We've seen really, really good not even year over year, about 11 months, about 10 and a half months. In 10 and a half months, just incredible progress as far as that goes in the IQ test. Speaking of O3, one of the things that it does extremely well is GeoGuessing. So GeoGuessr, if you're not familiar with it, you're given a picture and it's a game where you guess where in the world it is. So, you could read all about it on Wikipedia, but GeoGuessing with O3 has been really impressive. In fact, I can show you how impressive. So if we come up here, I have a picture of myself, one of my friends. Where was the picture taken? Thought for up a minute and 17 seconds. And this is where, as I told you, the tool usage comes in that O3 can do. It thought, then it ran out to do some verification and searched the web multiple times, reviewed that, and then finished up and gave us our answer right there. And where is it? It's at outdoor pool deck area at the Seminole Hard Rock Cafe and Hotel Casino in Hollywood, California. And they're absolutely right. And it even picked up on the comedy at the rock in the back on the LED screen. Now, this one to me is even more impressive. This is off the back of my boat. It says, where was this picture taken? There's not a lot to go by there. And it's not like there aren't other areas in the world where this looks similar. That's the Indian River Lagoon in Melbourne, Florida. And it tells where I'm anchored. I'm south of O'Galley Causeway. And then this one was interesting too, because it's not an outdoor location. Where am I? And there's where it's doing zooming in. You can see how it zoomed into these images to get an idea. It said that shot was taken inside Carnival Cruise Line's Heroes Tribute Lounge. It is exactly where it was taken. Here's another one with one of my friends. Still not, some to go by, but not a lot. It absolutely nailed it. The paddock lawn at Keeneland Racecourse. So very impressive. Keep in mind, if you're sharing pictures on social media, you're not, even if you're not saying specifically where you're at, it's not, these days with these models now, it's pretty easy to track down where you're at. In another piece of news, OpenAI is buying Windsurf, or not buying, offered $3 billion offer for Windsurf, which is a coding platform. So some of you may say, why does that matter to me? Well, it matters because we're seeing OpenAI start to differentiate themselves from a model company, from a model company to a company that is product focused, and also personalization is another part of that. So they're trying to get away from models which have been commoditized at this point. Think about it. We've got DeepSeek, we've got Claude and Anthropic Claude, we have Copilot from Microsoft, we have Gemini from Google, we have obviously ChatGPT, and I'm not even listing a bunch of others that are out there that, the Alibaba model, the Quen model, open source, Meta's open source model, Llama. There's just so many of them. And they're really not that far off from each other, meaning in terms of the differences, to get a lot of people to switch between them. If you want to get down to the real niche, yes, coding, there's differences. For instance, coding, maybe in writing in one versus another, some differences. But for the average person using the average model, there's really not a lot of difference between those. They're all going to give you really good results when you use them. So ChatGPT and OpenAI are taking an approach of personalization, and we're watching other people kind of follow, but ChatGPT has by far the largest user base. So by personalizing, as I've said, with your past chat history, that's a moat, what we call a moat, because other people don't have access to that. So because they don't have access, you can't take that with you when you go to, say, Claude, or you go to Google Gemini and use those models. It doesn't have the past chat history and that information about you that it can use. So they're doubling down on that now, because they just announced, well, as part of the 0304 mini launch, the change logs, which are the support documents, included that they have launched what's called memory with search. So they're using your chat history. So if you go to search for find restaurants near me using ChatGPT, it will know if you've said in there you were in San Francisco. Let's say that you have said, hey, what are some good vegan recipes, or, blah, 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 blah. It knows you're vegan. It knows you're in San Francisco. So then it searches near you. It's not using your location at that point. You might say near my house, right? It knows where those are because of past chat history. It then changes your search to use that in ads near, in San Francisco, near my address, and vegan. And so that's why that's such a big deal, because we don't have to tell our AI all this backstory of who we are, what we've done, and all this other stuff. It just will know it and be able to walk forward with us, and we'll be able to use it. So that's an important one. Buying Windsurf is for developers. Well, there's multiple reasons to do that. One, they get developers using their platform, which is huge. They can make it work extremely tight and work great with their platform, but they also get to see all the coding that's going on and train their model on that coding, and also be able to see how people are using it and be able to figure out what new features and functionality and what things they should be adding as well. So a lot of reasons for them to add that. So if you hear anything about that, that's been an offer. It hasn't been accepted, but we already know that they contacted another provider as well, Cursor, and they turned them down, so they've turned to Windsurf. Let's move on. This is a biggie, potentially. It's time to start preparing for AGI. And of course, right when I do that, they pop in between. Love how these ads work. It's time to start preparing for AGI, Google says. Google DeepMind is urging a renewed focus on long-term AI safety and planning. And if you look at what they're saying we need to do this now because it's on the horizon. They see it. Remember, DeepMind has stuff that won't be out for months and months, maybe a year, sometimes more. In the robotics, yes, it might be 2 years or 3 years. They've had these models. They've had these in testing. They've got all kinds of stuff in testing all the time. So they're on the front row seat, just like OpenAI and Microsoft and all the others. And they're saying that we need to focus on AGI now and that you need to start to pay attention. But not only did they say that we need to focus on that now, but they have a job posting that is up for a research scientist post AGI research. So AGI is artificial general intelligence. That means that the AI model is equivalent or better than humans in most tasks. And what do we mean is science and math and coding and philosophy and writing and, basically anything that you can kind of think of along those terms. GeoGuessing, I mean, all these different things. And so we say that's the level. So they want to bring somebody in who, it's a open position, prevalent position to spearhead research on AGI on domains such as economics, law, health, and well-being. AGI to ASI. ASI is artificial superintelligence. That's where the AI model is going to be many times smarter than a human at that point. Machine consciousness and education. And they want to develop and conduct in-depth studies to analyze AGI's societal impacts across key domains and collaborate with cross-functional teams to drive the forward research and dive into specific areas to improve our understanding of the impact of AGI and create the map of potential outcomes, and then build and refine measurement infrastructure and evaluation frameworks for a systemic evaluations of AI societal effects. So Google is taking it very seriously. This hire shows that. I don't think it'll be the last hire by them. I think this is the beginning of them investing into researching what the impacts of AGI is going to be and beyond to ASI. On other news, Microsoft announced computer use, which was part of their Copilot studio. So what it is, they say UI automation. So think about this. We've had APIs around for a long time. That allows programs to speak to programs. It's what you use when you're on your phone using an app. It almost always is connecting to an API, application programming interface. So that app is talking to a server application and they're communicating back and forth, essentially. If we just take it down to its highest level, that's basically what it is. But not all software and websites and everything have APIs. And so if they don't, then there's really no way for the computer or the model to be able to connect to and utilize that site or that application. So that's where having the model trained so it can use the human interface, which is exactly what we see here. This is an interface. I can type in a search here. I can type in a URL. I can click on this link. As you see, if there's a search box on the page, I can search here. I can click this button. I can click that link. You have navigation, all this stuff. If you have a form, you're entering data into a form. That's where, when these models understand interfaces like that we look at, the human interfaces, then if it doesn't have an API, they can use it. So think older software or any piece of software that doesn't have an API. Then these models can just by looking at it, examining it. Oh, there's data here, data here. I understand what it is. Entering the data, clicking a button to submit a form, or navigating a website, adding something to a cart, and then able to check out on your behalf, make a reservation on your behalf. Those are all the type of things. Enter invoice data or any type of data on your behalf. That's the type of use cases that we're talking about. And if you look here, automated data entry, market research, invoice processing, just a few examples of how they're talking about it using. So that is Microsoft announcing that they have a new product called Computer Use, which, by the way, Anthropic has a product called Computer Use. OpenAI has a product called Operator. Those are doing the same things. There's one from Amazon called Nova Pro, I believe it is. Anyway, it allows you to basically do the same things where you can interface with a web browser, and you're able to surf the web, go to a site, check out. Now, I've used them. They're very raw at this point. They are not there yet, but they're close. And on some simple use cases, they could work really well with a little bit of supervision. So if you've got a situation like that, reach out to me. I can be more than happy to talk with you about that. For instance, if you have an older piece of software with form data that you're entering, data entry, etc. The basic use cases can work, but we're talking more complex, like go out and reserve a flight for me on American Airlines for May 25th through the 35th, somewhere in there. Find the best times. I want to leave in the morning. I want to get back in the evening, and I want find the best rates for me, and let me see what they are. Doing something like that, or go to Amazon, find the best reviewed product with over 1,000 reviews and a 4.5 or above rating for a flashlight that is under $50. Those are use cases that we will be doing soon, but we are not there yet. It will come very fast. We've seen how fast the IQ's gone, and these models are getting better and better and better. So within the next year, by the end of this year and into next year, you're going to see an explosion of agents doing just what I talked about, and even custom applications that we have in our businesses. So keep that in mind. That's something that if you have a use case like that, now is the time to start working on that so that you can be ready when these models are ready and caught up. And it might work even now because it might not be nearly as complex of a use case. Let's switch over to another CEO saying how important AI is. Uber's CEO, I'm not even going to try to say his name. You see it on the screen. Said not enough employees know how to use AI constructively, and schools and companies should start training their people to use AI. And he went down here to say it is absolute necessity within a year. Well, pair him up with Shopify, which I talked about just last week. The Shopify CEO saying it's a requirement and it's part of performance reviews and peer reviews to see your use of AI, and that hiring of human assets is frozen until you can prove why AI can't do the job. So we're seeing more CEOs come out and talk about how important it is for you to be trained, you to know, you to understand, and intuitively be able to use AI. So if you're not already investing in that, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do. You can reach out to me. Love to chat with you as far as that goes. We provide consulting, but also just get on and start using it and add it into your daily workflows. And the more you can do that, the more you're going to understand it, the more you're going to realize areas that you can add. And as new features and functionality come out, stay up to date with shows like this, then you're going to know how to integrate it even more into your everyday workflow. Appreciate it if you come over to YouTube, for instance, and check out AI Adaptive. And we've got a bunch of videos sitting over there that you can go through and watch. You can just search on it and you'll see the logo on there. We have AI tips and tricks coming out, and we have another AI tool of the week coming out as well. look forward to seeing you again soon.